In the next section of the paper, they tackle the issue of whether or not the cache hierarchy explains the results that they see. So in this section, they argue that the cache hierarchy does not explain this. To do that, they give a detailed analysis of cost of random scan in an array of size n in a memory hierarchy. And they try to relate it to their measured running times. Okay. So how do they do it? So first of all, they assume that we have a memory hierarchy in our system where Si is the size of the ith level of cache. So for example, at the beginning, Si could be, the S1 could be size of or S0 could be size of the registers, then S1 could be size of the level 3 cache, and etc. And L is a level of the cache where the input starts to not fit. Okay, so the array fits into level L plus 1, does not. Okay, I guess the caches are decreasing in size. Okay. And then they analyze what is the cost of random scan, and then they get something like this. So the expected cost in the IO model that we've talked about, they obtain some formula like this. We're not going to go through how they prove it, but let's just trust that what they prove is correct. So what they have is that they have a factor of n here. They have a factor of CL plus 1, and what is CL here is the cost of accessing an address that is inside the cache but not the next level of cache. And so all these costs are explained in terms of sizes of the caches and the cost of accessing an element that is not in the cache. Okay, so let's believe this. So it's a complicated formula, but we don't need to understand all the details. It's just that we have to keep in mind that they do some theory here, right? So this is not experimental. This is just theoretical work. And then they try to see whether this holds. So they take the running time and then they divide it by the formula they have obtained. If their claim is correct that it's the entirely cache, or the hypothesis is correct that it's entirely cache complexity that is responsible for this, then we should see again a constant function. But it's not. It has these, bumpy shape. It shows that there is something off here. This does not explain the behavior that we see. This is not the running time. And again, this is for the random permutation, I think. Is this convincing? Okay, then they also have the specification of the machine that they have here. I would like you to think for a moment to see whether this experiment and this argument is convincing. So I hope you have thought about this. I think, so in my opinion, this is a good experiment, but it's not 100% convincing. Because first of all, they have not verified whether their model of cache behavior, which is this formula, is actually correct. To be able to verify this, they will need to run some experiments and to actually calculate the number of cache misses and to show that this formula is actually valid or it's related to the practice. Okay. And on top of that, I will also want them to do the division based on the actual number of cache misses that they have instead of theoretical IO complexity. Okay, and even more convincing than that would be to go back to the plot that they had before and see whether or not this fluctuations actually make sense with respect to the size of the caches. And to be even doubly correct, I would like these experiments to be repeated on a different machine with different specification and different cache sizes to see whether or not we kind of get the same phenomenon or not. As far as I can say, these experiments were performed only on one machine. And because of that, it's not 100% convincing. That's actually, I would say, it's a weakness of this approach, because maybe it's just this machine that has this weird behavior, and if you run it on a different machine, it's not, you get something completely different. Okay, so even though this is a good start, I don't think it's 100% convincing, but we move on to see what else they offer in the paper.